Welcome everyone, I'm John Ryan. I guess you can tell who I like in the Big 12 tournament. At least I hope you recognize this brand name, the Texas Longhorns. But we're going to start with a different conference first. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. And we're going to add our slides here. Let's start with the Big 10. And in the Big 10, you can see on this chart, I filled out the bracket. And more importantly, these are the lines that I think you're going to see moving forward. And that's why I'm doing this show. What happens today obviously matters a lot. If we're right on my calls here for some of these games, which are not premium bets, some of them will be for my clients, but I'm not advertising these as best bets just yet. And later today, I will put out a couple for free that are tied to this video. But for now, let's just take a look at the bracket. And in this bracket, we have just 1 second here. Here we go. In the Big Ten here, we have Rutgers taking on Michigan, and I think Michigan has a chance to win the game. So I advanced them. They will be 6.5-point underdogs against Purdue. And Purdue is definitely the cream of the crop in the Big Ten this year. They're just light years ahead of just about everybody else. So Purdue will only be, though, a 4.5-point favorite with a 135.5-point total if Michigan wins. I'm sorry, that's against Michigan State on game number 11 there. It's going to be on CBS. And then Purdue advances to the conference final. I don't think Ohio State has been playing much better of late, but they're going against Wisconsin, who has struggled. I thought that would be a team a month ago that would be a possible long shot contender to win this thing, but I don't think so anymore. But Ohio State wins their first game. They advance, but then Iowa, with that offense, they take control. Now, here's the interesting pick, Iowa and Michigan State. If Iowa was more consistent, I would lean towards Iowa. They're not, however. I like Michigan State's overall composition of their team, and I think Michigan State advances. But this will be a game that'll be pick 'em, I think, or maybe -1, -1.5 for one of these teams, depending on how the betting flows go. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that game open up at pick 'em. Purdue then advances. But this is probably the game that I'm targeting, Purdue, Michigan State. If it is 4.5, I think there's tremendous value in taking Purdue at that point, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, Penn State is the team that I think is a really big dark horse here. They play well at home. They struggled on the road a little bit with consistency, and they're playing at the United Center in Chicago, but they do have the history of being able to play pretty well there. So Penn State, number 10, going up against number 7, Illinois. That game is starting at 5:30 p.m., So Penn State advances. Then there'll be a 2.5-point dog to Northwestern, who they recently defeated pretty soundly. 136.5 is the total. Penn State plus 2.5, 136.5 total, going up against Maryland. And in the lower bracket here, we have Minnesota against Nebraska. And hold on 1 second here, folks. I got to just mute this for a second. Back in action here. Thanks, guys. I just had to open the door there and let good old Manny in. But anyway, back to the bracket. The lower end of the bracket here is kind of meaningless for the most part until Penn State obviously would get to the championship game, and that is it's a reach, granted. But they are a team that's fully capable behind Pickett to make a run here. And look who they're playing: Illinois, who I think is actually a much better team than Northwestern. Northwestern is the number 2 seed because of tiebreakers and a bunch of other stuff. But this whole composite of Big Ten teams, folks, is just amazing at how close these teams are. It's almost like sometimes looking at the top 8 teams in the NFL that on any given day they can beat one another, and if the breaks go their way, they will. And that's important to remember, I think, in my opinion at least, going down the stretch here when we get deeper into the tournament. So let's take a look at some of the trends and angles that are available here. Just slipping the slide here. So there's your odds, and now here are the trends and angles. We're going to consider Penn State here at 25 to 1. Now, I've already taken that. I've got it at BetMGM. Some places are even higher now. But I think Penn State here at 25 to 1 is an excellent bet. Or if you really like Penn State, you can do the money line rollover. So in games where they're the dog, you just want to bet the money line and leave it at that. And if they win, you take the money that you won, not the initial investment. You take that out and you put it back in your piggy bank, but you take the profits and roll it over on the next game. And there will be pretty juicy money lines in the latter part of the tournament if Penn State is the right call. So now we have Penn State 20, 21, 20 favorites, including pick, went 8-5 straight up, 4-9 against the spread. Since 2017, double-digit favorites are 6-1 straight up, but only 1-6 against the number. And this again reflects what I'm thinking is going to happen in the Big Ten. You're going to have favorites that are going to have to fight their tails off just to advance, and a lot of them are not going to cover. And that's been a tradition in the Big Ten Conference during the regular season and also especially in the tournament. The under is 30-12 since 2017, when the total is between 128 and 137. And as you see on my chart, I think a lot of these totals are going to fall right in that range. So keep that in mind too. Teams off an upset win. Now this would obviously apply to Penn State first and foremost. 6-16 straight up in the next game. But look at the spread: 17-5, 77%. And if priced as a dog, which Penn State would be, 16-3 against the spread for 84%. Since 2017, dogs with a better scoring defense. Now, the Big Ten is all about slower style of play for the most part. If you take Iowa out of the equation, that's probably universally true. Then, as compared to like teams in the SEC, for example, or even the Pac-12. So the better scoring defense, 10-14 straight up. But look at the spread, 15-8-1 against the spread, 15-8-1 over. So if you see a dog with a better scoring defense, you want to get on them. And the rankings, I have a chart. Just send me a direct message on Twitter. I'll send you all the statistics that for defensive scoring in the Big Ten and all of these conferences, because this is only the first conference, and we're going to be talking about others here very shortly. So let's move on to the next one here, and we're going to look at the Big 12. Now this is one that is going to be just rock and roll. And I'm really excited about these games that'll be coming up, not necessarily today, but starting tomorrow is when the real games are going to come out. There's going to be a lot of games in this tournament that I think will be right around pick'em. So with that said, we'll just have to wait and see how the lines come out. But let's take a look at what I have here for the bracket. And in this bracket, we have obviously Kansas doesn't make it. Texas does make it. But as I said to start the show, you can tell who I like. But I looked at the numbers, and from a betting perspective, I think Baylor offers the best value here in the futures market. So consider a pizza money bet on Baylor, and this would be my preferred bet of all of the conference to win bets that I've made. I've only done one, and it's Baylor. If Texas does make it, I might have to do some sort of in-game type of strategy, but I'll be sure to highlight it in the video when it's time. And I know we're going to be laughing at these brackets too. Some of them are probably hopefully going to be pretty good, but some of them are going to be just awful. And the Penn State pick is potentially the one that could be awful if they lose their first game, but I don't think they will, obviously. So here we have Texas, and look what they're in the number 2 seed, but look, they're going to be plus 1.5 against Oklahoma when they play them, if Oklahoma advances. So then we have Texas minus 3.5 over TCU, and TCU is a great team. So even though they're the 2 seed, TCU is the 6 seed going against Kansas State. I think they'll upset them. I'm pretty high on TCU here to make a run. And then the committee, I think, is going to have the most trouble with Selection Sunday with the Big 12, because arguably the only team that I can't really make a case for is Texas Tech. But they're fully capable of making a run. What if they win their first game like I have here against West Virginia, which is not that noteworthy? But what if they did upset Kansas? I mean, think about it. So, they'll be a 7.5-point dog, but that doesn't mean anything in the Big 12. If things go Texas Tech's way and they start, getting hot from threes, the total is in play for the over, and lo and behold, if Texas Tech would advance, they would play Baylor. They wouldn't go any further, I don't think, but that would be a monumental upset. But I don't think Texas Tech will be a double-digit favorite, obviously. And then if they are, then it's going to be on the radar for a premium bet. If they come out at plus 10, this is why I put these lines out, so you can use it to see where the value is very quickly, like literally in 5 minutes. So the next chart here is going to be with the trends and angles. So let's get right to the trends and angles here. Since the 2019 tourney, favorites, including pick, are 10-8 straight up, but 6-12 against the spread. Again, look at the theme. And the bet here from BetMGM, the bid stealer: Kansas, Texas, Baylor, Kansas State, TCU, and Iowa State to win the Big 12 minus 1,200, but the field is plus 6. Now, honestly, pizza money, I'm not going to argue, but the real value would be plus 800. So if this bet is offered somewhere else other than BetMGM, try to get as close to 800 as you can if you like it, because that's a great way to play it, because you don't want to play the favorites in the Big 12 to win the tournament, because with all the upsets that we have seen, we had record number of leads, double-digit leads by home favorites blown, and they lose the game outright. The number is staggering. I put it out on one of my tweets earlier this week. I think it was late last week. And the numbers are mind-boggling. So, again, in-game betting strategies are going to be huge in these tournaments, because you get a favorite that's out to a 10-point lead. That doesn't mean the game's over. Not this year in all these conferences, by no stretch of the imagination. So consider a pizza money bet on a dog that you like pre-flop. And take advantage of what the market gives you. Take advantage of the volatility that I keep talking about every single show I mention scoring volatility, and it will be wild. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So let's see. I'm going to track that, actually. I'm going to make a note to track all double-digit leads in-game live bet when they occurred, and then take in the dog and see how they do. Maybe they'll go 60%. Maybe they'll go 55%. But I do think that is a winning betting strategy to employ for any of the conferences that you like. Again, it's unfortunate, but you have to watch like 1 or 2 games at a time, and you might miss one. Don't worry about it. You can only do the best you can. I think it's always better to have a plan in place of what games you're going to watch and why, and then take advantage of it when it happens, and if it does. So here you can see all the trends and angles. One of the best ones here is dogs off a win, price as a favorite, is 9-5 against the spread for 64%. Team with a better scoring defense, again, the Big 12, 18-18 straight up. But look at it, 11-25 against the spread for 30%. Different style of conference than the Big 10. So I'm not surprised by this. So the better scoring defense does not do well in the Big 12 conference tournament. 30% winners. And if it's a dog, 7-4 to the under, which makes sense to me, because a dog, what are they going to do? They're going to have to try to slow down the pace of the game, especially if they're not the better team on the offensive end, and the under makes a lot of sense to me as well. So let's go on now to the ACC tournament. And the ACC tournament here, I think, is pretty cool. New York Life is the area, that's the company that sponsors it, sorry. So in the tournament bracket here, I do think that North Carolina is fully capable, and I said it on a show. Actually, it was ESPN Syracuse, my friends over there. And I do think they're fully capable of making a run. And you could make a case to me right now in the chat room that so-and-so is going to win the ACC, and I would not have an argument against it. Unless, of course, you said one of the teams like Virginia Tech or even Notre Dame. I don't think really has a shot here either. But in fact, they don't have a shot because they lost last night. Okay, I'll be all right. So as you can see, Clemson is the team that I think makes the run. A lot of people are high on Duke, and it obviously is very correct to be high on Duke. I just don't think that they have enough momentum going into the tournament now that's sustainable. They are prone to regression throughout the tournament, but I do have them getting to the championship game and losing. It's hard to pick Duke over Miami. That game is going to be pick'em and 144.5 for the total is what I'm seeing. Syracuse today at noon and 7 minutes from now. I like that bet, and why not against Wake Forest here? Wake Forest has been a team that on one given week you think, wow, definitely a top 25 team towards the end of the year, and then nothing, and then they lose to Boston College badly, and they just don't have that mojo going forward into the tournament, and that's why they're playing today. But I'll let you look at the bracket here. North Carolina then does go on, and they lose to Clemson, who's the ultimate champion. But if UNC would upset Clemson, then you could potentially have the same old Duke versus North Carolina. And the beginning of this season, when Duke and North Carolina were finding their way, everybody said, "Oh my God, they're not going to even make the tournament." Well, Duke probably does, no doubt. UNC probably needs to win this thing to assure themselves make it to the final, the championship game, to get in. But we'll have to wait and see. All right, let's go to the trends and angles for this one, and we see that again the odds there are on the left, and looking at the angles that mean something to me that I trust. Tourney favorites, including Pick'em, went 63-15 straight up since 2017. 48-29 against the spread for 62. That's pretty darn good over a 5-year tournament period. Double-digit favorites, 7-0 straight up, 3-4 against the spread. And note that it's only 7 double digits. That kind of surprised me in the ACC. You would think that the disparity among so many different teams would be greater once you got into the tournament, but only 7 games in 5 years have had a double-digit favorite. So you want to be careful there. Now, they went 3-4. All right, so that's not a bet to take the dog pre-flop, but it is if you say the line is 7.5 and all of a sudden you see it at 14.5 or 15.5 and the line has doubled, which is what I look for in the tournaments. Then it becomes pretty meaningful, because 3-4 against the spread then becomes a much bigger percentage when you're getting double the amount of spread pre-flop. So keep that one in mind too. Dogs off an upset win, priced as a dog. 3-11 straight up, 6-8 against the spread, 11-3 over the total for 79% winning bets. And since 2017, dogs off a double digit against the spread win are 4-12 straight up, 8-8 against the spread, 69%. And 12-4 over. And that makes sense to me for the ACC. And again, teams with the better scoring defense for this season. 51-26, 43-33, 57%. Pretty good, but if they're the favorite, keep this in mind, 43-7 straight up. So in-game, if you have a favorite that all of a sudden is -1, -2, or the money line is -110 or -115, take advantage of it, because you have this data backing it. These trends are very solid. They have very strong correlations and Pearson correlations and p-values that I have talked about on other shows. And it stands to reason that a favorite that you can get at Pick'em is going to do pretty darn well at the end of the game. And when you do it, it may be at a timeout where the opposition has ripped off 10 in a row and taken the lead. And you have to just tell yourself, okay, they took the lead, but now I have an opportunity to be contrarian to that trend at scoring 10-0 run, and I'm gonna get the favorite here at a very, very cheap price. And that's how you have to look at it. And then lastly, I have the Big East here, and I do think Villanova, and this is the bracket where I can have egg on my face, and next week we could all be laughing at me with all my incorrect presumptions here in the Big East tournament. But the Big East is a very unpredictable one. Probably the most has the highest volatility correlation of any of the conference ones that we've just talked about. So as you can see, I have Villanova winning. Again, if you get Villanova at a dog, which I don't think is going to really happen here when you see the lines that I'm projecting. You have Villanova against Xavier. They should be a 4.5 point dog. 6 weeks ago they would have been 7.5 or 9.5. But Villanova has gotten it together. Now, whether they can carry this through to the championship game, which I have against Providence, which would be a number 5 against a number 6, which I don't think has happened in the Big Ten. I tried to research that, but It's probably unlikely that if Villanova makes it, that it'll be Providence, or if Providence makes it, it'll be Villanova. It's more likely to be Xavier, for example. But I think Providence or Villanova will make it. So pizza money bets on either one of them to win the whole thing, and play the money line rollover concept with Providence here at 230 going up against UConn as an 8.5 point. If you like the futures bet for Providence to get to the final, bet the money line with pizza money. If you like the bet, then take the points, of course. But I think that's the way to do it. And then when Providence plays in the next game, that would be against Marquette. They might only be a skinny 4.5 point dog, but it's a money line bet again. If they advance, then we have to figure that out with a spread against Villanova, which I think the game either be pick'em or -1. But I think Providence and Villanova are live dogs here in the Big East, and we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Trends in the Big East: favorites of 3.5 to 7.5 points are 8 and 16 against the number. That certainly supports Providence and Villanova because they're going to be the dogs. Since 2017, dogs off an upset win priced as a dog again. 10-4, 71%. Dogs off double-digit ATS wins. 9-4, 69%. The team with a better scoring defense for the season is 7-13 against the spread. So again, that favors the teams that like to score more points and be more focused on the offensive end than they are in their skill sets on the defensive end. And that, I think, fits Providence and Villanova pretty well. So if the favorite is the better scoring defense, you can see the under is 12-3, 80%. And of course, that makes a lot of sense to me. Favorites and unders are an excellent combination over the years to look at. You don't bet every single one of them, obviously, but I think in the Big East here, that trend is going to continue. So that's pretty much all that I have for today. Here's the trends for the Big East. And sorry for that little earlier delay, but Manny is the man. He's a Red Fox Labrador, by the way, and that's where the name Manny's Irish Pub Sports Betting Show came from. So, any questions? Looking at the chat room here. Hey, Alex Vale, Mark, good to see you guys. Let's see. Mark says I have a future on Nova in the Big East and make Final Four pizza money on that on ladder. Yep, we just got done talking about that. That's I'm with you. And Alex always has some good stuff, so maybe he'll be putting up some trends and angles that he has in the comment section on the show on YouTube, and that would be pretty cool. I'm not sure if he has time, and I'm not requesting it, but he does do good work, and he's I can honestly say I've known him for a long time, and he once was an amateur bettor, and now he has a skill set that is very, very good. So when he presents a trend or an angle, you definitely want to pay attention. So anyway, that'll be it for today, and I want to thank everybody for watching here. Next week I'll probably have Jesse Shaw and a bunch of other people on the show, so that'll be good. You won't have to listen to my monologue all the time, but always remember, especially starting today now at 12:01 Eastern Standard Time on March the 8th, it's very important to bet with your head and never over it, and may all the wins be yours. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll talk to you soon.